And welcome to another edition of Success Talk. I'm Deborah Shariff, and I am so excited to bring to you an entrepreneurial coach who has done wonders all over the country with women entrepreneurs. But before I introduce her, let me let you see her in action. And again, her name is Pamela Lue-Hing. Watch this.
On our way to fulfilling God's purpose for our lives.
Now, or did you write this book when you were in the transition and
Yes. Well, ask me, I told you I've been selling credit cards and cell phones since I was 14. As entrepreneurs, we're entrepreneurs, yes.
Many times there seems to be more differences than there are similarities, but there is one constant, and that is the human experience. We must remember there are four powerful statements in one body language that changes the trajectory of a relationship and invites peace. Please, thank you, I love you, and I apologize. And then offer a genuine smile.
tonight, Charlotte entrepreneur Pamela LueHing is here to encourage you with her book called Pink Slip to Powerhouse, 12 Steps to Next. She's also a transformational speaker and consultant. Welcome to the show. We're so glad for you to be here. That's good. Now, here's a quote in your book. You said, when God activated my gift and gave me freedom to flow, he didn't just turn on a spigot. He ushered in a waterfall. Explain that.
I really believe that we must train our eyes to see beyond what's in front of us and discipline our minds to really see each moment. And now, how do I begin to think like an entrepreneur, moving from employee to employer? And then finally, powerhouse in motion. That is, you have your ideas, you are now ready to implement the plan.
Gotcha. Thank you for being with us here tonight and getting us to our next. All right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The fact of the matter is, it's still happening today. You gotta pick up that phone. You gotta make those phone calls, right? Everybody get excited about picking up the phone, make phone calls. Yes? What's the CRM? You guys in the right room. Customer Relations Management tool. You've got to decide what is that tool going to be, and you've got to work with that tool. Download your information, stay connected to your customers. Those are rules of engagement, okay? And you can also check out my website at www.pamelalueHing.com. Thank you so much. All right.
And now, here she is, Pamela Lue-Hing. Welcome to Success Talk. You look great.
Thank you so much, Deborah, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's wonderful to have you. Um, there's so many questions that I have for you, and I'm just wondering if I can, sort of ask you before you talk about all these wonderful programs that you have. Can you walk me through exactly what was the motivation to be an entrepreneurial coach for women? And I noticed some men in the audience, so I'm sure, I know your focus is women, but I believe that you also coach males in terms of entrepreneur coaching.
Yes, yes. So, Deborah, my journey with entrepreneurship started when I was a little girl. It started with that lemonade stand on the sidewalk, right? We didn't even have the driveway back then, right? East side of Detroit. And that's where my entrepreneurial journey started. And I fell in love with servicing people and serving people and figuring out a way to create products and monetize them. So it went from lemonade stand to, I think I was 14 or 15. I started tutorial service in the neighborhood, tutoring young people. And then from there to, gosh, I've sold everything from credit cards, meet over telephone. So sales and entrepreneurship has been in my DNA. And then I was a director with Mary Kay Cosmetics for over 10 years. So it's been a long time. And my coaching journey started back in 2011. I went to become a certified Christian life coach. So I combined my passion for coaching, and I've been a coach for many, many years in many facets, including track. And so I love to coach. I love to coach people. And so in the last couple of years, however, I have found that sweet spot, if you will. Though I've coached men, and I do have every now and then I will have a client who's a male, but my primary focus is women now. So for the last 2 years, I really have been focusing on life and women who are life and business coaches in that 0 to 3 year phase.
Wow. And, I think that the most important thing when you think about, entrepreneurs, or, you're thinking about folks who have an interest in being a part of this entrepreneurial competitive world.
Yeah.
Many people think, oh, I don't need a coach. I can just write a business plan and I can go out there and get my product out to the world. That is not the case. You really need mentors. And it took me a long time to figure that out, because I'm saying, okay, I'm a professor, I teach this stuff, but it really is a mindset. Talk to us about your coaching business. And then I want to also bring up your book, Pink Slip, because all of us dream about giving our bosses the pink slip so that we can be our own bosses. So
Yes.
so speak to me about, what that journey is and how important it is to have mentors and coaches like you.
Oh my goodness. Deborah, I wouldn't be where I am today without mentors, without mindset. Coaches, I have several coaches. One of my biggest coaches probably would be my mom, right? My mom, she did work for a grocery store for over 18 years. And I lost my dad when I was young. And so she was a single mom holding it down. And after 18 years, that job decided to close the doors. And so she went to cosmetology school. So she started a hair salon in our basement. And that's what kept us going. And that's what I saw. So that was my inspiration and my mentor when it came to work ethic, right? So now, in terms of the importance of having a mentor, a coach, we can only see this far, but a coach helps to expand the horizon, the perspective. They help us to think differently. They help us to move differently. And I have started several masterminds. So there's several different ways that you can get support or create a space for support for yourself as an entrepreneur. Of course, coaching is number one, right? So we definitely want to solicit the help of a coach, because a coach will help you stay focused and will help you, again, think forward. And then you can also consider masterminds and accountability partners. Those are also very, very effective, but it's critical to building, because every day as an entrepreneur is different. Every single day, there is no day that's the same. So if you are new out there and you're looking at entrepreneurship, I would say, first of all, evaluate evaluate what your capacity, right? Your capacity to be flexible, your capacity to manage your emotions. That's huge in entrepreneurship, because we've got to be able to think clearly and really stay focused. And me having ADHD, that's one of my biggest challenges, Deborah, is staying focused, right? So I have to have a coach. I have an accountability partner. As a matter of fact, I was meeting with her a little bit earlier. So we meet bi-weekly, right, to stay on task. Also, I run a mastermind for coaches on Saturdays. Every Saturday morning, I'm there 8 a.m. like clockwork. Okay. So it's critical that we stay tapped in, because we're pouring out as coaches, we're pouring out all the time. As entrepreneurs, we're pouring out all the time, but who's pouring back into us?
Absolutely. And when you talk about mastermind, and again, this is something that is new for me because I've been in academia for 30 plus years. So it's time for me to monetize my set of skills and
Mm.
mastermind. And I have to give credit to my daughter Kai because she's the one that actually started going to these mastermind classes, and she says, "Mom, you got to come." And I said, "Girl, I don't need that. I just need to do a bit, just like I mentioned." And she says, "No, Mom." She said, "Because you're not consistent." And
Mm.
just like you mentioned, Pamela, it is very important. So I want to talk a little bit, but let me bring the streamers in so they can actually check out this fabulous book. Again, this is a powerhouse book. My goodness. We're looking at The Pink Slip. How did that come about?
Hmm. Wow. Let's see. Let me take you back to, let's see, my son is 31 now, and he was an infant when I got my first pink slip. That was my first professional position at the hospital. And I worked a 12, uh, what is it, 12, 7P to 7A. And our jobs were very critical. We worked in the emergency room, and I worked at the number 2 trauma hospital in Detroit, Michigan. Very stressful. 7P to 7A. Well, one day I got a call from my boss, and she said, "Pam, don't worry about coming to work today. They're getting rid of our entire department that day." And so, strike number 1. Fast forward, Charlotte, North Carolina, about 2008. I was working for a staffing agency. The general manager walked in one day. I thought that we were having our monthly meeting, a powwow. Everyone came to the boardroom. Effective immediately, we're closing this office. No signs for either one of those. My third was at a college. I actually worked for a college, and they hired me to develop their nursing program because of my extensive sales and pharmaceutical background. And so they hired me to come in and develop the program. They gave me a prospectus. They took me to the supply room and said, "Here's a notepad, here's a pen. Let us know what else you need." I developed that nursing program from scratch. They hired a nurse to build that component out with the curriculum. I developed the program. Well, got that program up and running. About a year and a half after that, the president decided to sever a relationship with a third party company that was on deck for 15 years. They were responsible for the enrollment, the marketing, and the recruitment of the programs. It was an adult education program. We had 2 campuses without a plan in place. No plan in place, Deborah, not one. And so God led me to put together an organizational chart, put my name in it as the director. I had never done anything like that, and the president accepted it. So I went into full force, like, just really working hard to build that program out, to keep things going with the nursing program. And then I had to hire new staff. I had to train new staff. And you talk about crisis management, that was crash course in crisis management. Okay. And about 6 months after that, a new sheriff came to town. He was the new VP. And let's just say about 5 months after that, he came knocking at my door, Deborah.
Mm.
And I heard it for the last time. Due to economic conditions, we're going to have to let you go. And I had one question, Deborah, just one. Because remember, I hired the entire staff. I trained the entire staff. I knew their families. We had a beautiful work environment, very productive. I said, "How about my staff?" He says, "Oh, they're fine." And Deborah, about 6 months after that, they let them go one by one by one.
Mm.
And so that was the third pink slip. And as a part of my severance package, they sent me up the mountains in Asheville, North Carolina, to meet with an outplacement counselor. And within the first 15 minutes, Deborah, you want to know what she asked me?
What did she ask?
She said, "Why aren't you doing your own? Why aren't you creating your own business, becoming a consultant, and doing your own?" Well, what she didn't know was I was already working on that. Because when I walked out of the door on that day, Deborah, after that third pink slip, and mind you, I was a single parent at that time. I had a senior in high school and a little first grader. And that was devastating. I can promise you I wasn't smiling on that day, Deborah.
Mm.
I shed some tears. There was some fear there. There was some anguish there. But there's one thing that I've always taught my children. I said, there's a path in life. And it's interesting because they're actually following it today. My son is 31 and my daughter's now 19. I said, okay, this is how the path goes. You're going to go to high school. You're going to graduate from there. You're going to go to college. You're going to get your degree. Then you're going to get a position, a career. You're going to start a career somewhere with somebody to learn how they do things, how you would do them differently. And then you're going to start your own business. And then you're going to get married. And then you're going to have children. So far, so good, Deborah. It's working.
And they followed your advice.
Yes, my
Wow.
son, he has his own business. He has a degree in psychology and business, but he has a business. And then my daughter is in college. So she's her second year, and she also has a business. She's a dancer, so she does that. And so far, so good. But I always say, I encourage everyone to always know their purpose. And everyone has something that they can do, especially in the climate that we're in right now in our country. Everyone has something that they can do to serve somebody else. There's a need that's being unmet because many of us are afraid to walk in our purpose.
Mm. We're afraid of our light. I mean, that's something I hear all the time.
Mhm.
Pamela, tell me if someone was to read your book,
Mhm.
because you can purchase it on Amazon.com.
Yes.
And let me just put up Pamela's name here on the ticker. And if I was to read it, you say 12 steps, uh, for 12 steps.
So,
What do I expect to actually get from your book? What
hmm.
impact would it have on me?
So this book was born out of course, my experiences, right? And when I was downsized in 2010, 2011, I decided I wanted to write a book, but it took me 4 years to actually get that, to birth that book. And so I launched it officially in 2014, but then I did a relaunch in 2015 because it wasn't quite where I wanted it to be in 2014. And the book will take you on a ride. It will help you experience, it will take you on a journey to learn what I went through in my journey. So I tell a little bit about my life, the experiences that I've had that perhaps you might be able to identify with, positions that I held that I gave my blood, sweat, and tears to, and to no avail. What you'll get from this book is inspiration. Then what you'll get from this book is a step-by-step how to make it happen for yourself. In addition to the book, you have a workbook that you utilize as you work through the book. You also get, there's a book of quotes as well as a journal. And what's very interesting is I did not launch those three publications until the following later that year, right? And I would not have done that if it had not been for the death of my sister.
Mhm.
And when I lost my sister, my world crashed. And she was one of my biggest supporters. And I remember being asleep one night, and I was in a state of depression.
Wow.
And my sister, it's like her spirit came to me, and she said, get up and finish what you started. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. And I got up, and that was in May of 2015. And I did not stop until the end of June when I finally finished my all three publications as an extension to the book to support those going into entrepreneurship. So I would encourage everyone out there to use the inspirations of life. Things happen to us. It's not about what happens to us, it's what we do with it. I'm sure everyone's heard that before. And so with Pink Slip to Powerhouse, you're going to again get inspiration, but you're going to get the how to, especially if you're just getting started. It really is a great book for those just getting into entrepreneurship.
Wow. And I know that you have something else new coming up. I know that it's probably not available to the public, but can you give us just a sneak peek of what that new development of that new product is that you are presenting to the public?
Yes, that's actually my Powerhouse Woman in Motion ultimate planning system for your life and business. So Deborah, it is not available on Amazon. The only way that that can be ordered is through our website. And
Okay.
it has been 3 years now. So we launched officially in 2020, and we've had a publication ever since. And so we're now preparing for 2023. And
Wow.
that is the first 50 pages of the planning system is a guide to help you build for a strong year and to harmonize your life. And it looks at the seven, what I call the seven essentials of well being: the mind, the body, and the soul. So with the mind, we have our psychological, right? And there are questions, there's an assessment that's in there to help you really think about where you are psychologically. How do we compartmentalize our thoughts? Then you have the emotional. How well do we manage our emotions? As we know, Fortune 500 companies pay handsomely for um, trainers to come in to teach on emotional management, because EI, a lot of the managers would rather hire someone with a higher EI than a higher IQ.
Hmm. And the EI
And
is, can you explain?
emotional intelligence, yes,
Hmm.
with a higher EI versus an IQ. And there was a study done by career builders that interviewed hundreds and hundreds of managers and decision makers. And that's where I get that study from. And so emotional management is critical. It can make or break us. It will help us move forward, or it will have us sitting in a corner somewhere twirling our hair or hair around our fingers. Okay. So that's the importance of emotional management. And then, of course, there's the intellectual development. How much are we stimulating our minds, reading different books? In addition to my book, there's a book that I love. It's called The E Myth Revisited by Michael E. Gerber. I highly suggest that book for all entrepreneurs. Again, The E Myth Revisited by Michael E. Gerber.
What is
And
it called again, Pamela?
The E Myth Revisited.
The Eidment. I don't
The
know if
E
I heard.
Myth.
How are you
Mhm.
spelling that?
EMYTH.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh.
So it's The E Myth Revisited by
Mm.
Michael E. Gerber. Fascinating book. Real quick, this is so helpful to know for entrepreneurs, especially the new entrepreneur. The premise is that his hypothesis, his theory, if you will, is that an entrepreneur wears three hats. The CEO is the visionary, the manager manages the vision and makes sure that it's executed, and then the technician gets the job done. Well, with those three roles as an entrepreneur, it's very important to really understand those different roles, to define those roles and what it takes to really run your organization. So, in my mastermind, we're studying from that book. It's very, very important. And so, I hope I answered your question.
Oh, you certainly did.
Yeah.
And I just want to mention, if you can see the ticker on the bottom, for folks to check out your website, because it has all the information how to get a hold of you, and also booking, because you are our fabulous presenter. So, and I just want to make sure that that is correct. But could you say, how can people actually give us your website address?
Yes. Website is www, of course, powerhouseinmotion.com. Powerhouse inmotion.com. They can also follow me on IG at PLueHing, and they can also connect with me on LinkedIn. And I believe we're there at Powerhouse Woman in Motion as well. And then
Excellent.
Pamela LueHing, of course.
Excellent. And my remaining two questions for you, Pamela. What have you found has been some of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make?
Hmm. Not getting a coach. That's number one. Yeah. Number one is not getting a coach. And number two is not understanding. And pardon me, I am a caregiver for my mom as well, and she is here. Mommy.
Oh,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Can you
what a
have a
blessing
can
to
you have a
still
seat
have
for
your
me?
mom.
No. Yes, it's a mom. Okay, mom. I'm on an interview right now. Yes.
But it's great hearing her voice, though. It really is.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Can I have a moment, please? Please. she says, I've had 10. My mother's comical. Did you hear it? She said, well, you've had 10 minutes. So that's been long enough. So anyway, and see, that's why I love my life, right? I can be here caring for my mom just as I care for my children and still work my business and serve the people I'm called to serve. So again, not getting a coach. And the second, I think, biggest mistake is not understanding the terrain,
Mm,
not understanding and clearly and fully researching what you're getting into,
wow.
understanding your boundaries, even your personal boundaries. Oh, and forgive me, I did not finish the seven. I talked about intellectual. I think that's where I got off track. So let me do this because this ties into understanding the terrain and understanding your capacity, right? That's two things that people can do to really start their businesses and so that they don't make this mistake. Number one, have a coach. Number two, understand the terrain and understand your capacity. So I was talking about the seven essentials of well-being. So there's the mind, body, soul. The mind is the psychological, the intellectual, the emotional, and then the financial, because money begins in the mind. Okay. So what is your relationship with money? The second is the body, making sure that we take care of ourselves physically, make sure that we're eating correctly, that we're drinking our water, that we're going to the doctors and doing the things that we need to do for our physical being. And then there's the social. What are our social connections? Very important as an entrepreneur to always evaluate your circle. Who's sharpening you? And if you're the sharpest knife in the drawer, it's time to move to a new drawer, right? And so making sure that we assess that. And then when we get into organizations, what organizations are we aligning ourselves with to network, to build relationship? Business is all about relationship. And so looking at the ROI on the investment of time and money with organizations and our social development. And then lastly is the spiritual.
Mm.
No matter what you believe, we all believe in something. We truly do. And then let something happen in our lives and we really start believing, right? And something higher
Exactly.
power, most people will say, but for me it's the Lord, and
Right.
so everything that I do resonates from that. It's almost like a cross. If you think of a cross, you have the vertical and then you have the horizontal. The vertical cannot stand, the horizontal cannot stand without the vertical. And
Mhm.
that vertical is that relationship, that personal relationship. I'm not talking religion. I'm talking about personal relationship and knowing your purpose and walking in your purpose authentically. So those are the two biggest mistakes. Again, having a coach, not having a coach, and then knowing your capacity and understanding the terrain.
Absolutely. And let me ask you this question, as a new entrepreneur working
Yes.
30 plus years in academia. Pamela, I teach media courses at a community college, journalism, TV studio production. So here's the question I have for myself, and hopefully you can answer it. I know
Yeah.
all the technology. I mean, I'm the nerdy grandmother that my grandkids come to and ask questions because I have to stay up on the trends. I have to stay up on the technology, particularly if I'm going to teach it. But here's the thing, but when it comes to, and when I think about content and making sure that, I dot my I's, cross my T's, but the most important thing that I feel that I've failed at is monetization and how to increase the streamers. How do I increase my brand new podcast that I just launched in March?
Congratulations to you.
Thank you. Thank you. And what would your advice be to increase the participation, or
Mhm.
just to increase my audience, my followers?
Excellent question. Excellent question. So there are tons of ways to be able to do that. And so the first um, order of business is to understand um, your marketing plan, right? And to create your marketing plan. What is that plan going to be? And understanding that in your line of business, Deborah, it is all about those relationships. And so one of the things that there's several things that you can do, of course, and that is make sure that you have established your email community and you invite people to join your email community, because that is the only thing that you'll ever be able to count on. Social media, we cannot count on it. I don't know if you recall back, I don't know if it was 6 months ago or 8 months ago, when it went down, people lost their minds. It's like, they forgot to eat and drink on that day. It's like, wait, social media, wait, I can't get on my TikTok, I can't get on my IG or my Facebook. What's going on? I had a moment. I did have a moment, but then I said, wait, Pam, that's not your life, right? It's a moment, but it felt like an eternity when it went down. And so that's why it's so important to build your email community. So I would say to you, Deborah, build your email community, build relationships, and then make sure that you're consistent with your email communique as well, and reaching out and letting them know what you're doing.
Yes.
And I have so many ideas for you. My
And
mind
joining
is
your
full.
mastermind class. The
Joining the
mastermind program.
mastermind.
Yes, absolutely. So I will be calling on you, and I will be signing up for some of your classes. So,
Awesome.
yeah,
Awesome. Well, I have a class coming up. I'm glad you said that.
okay.
I am going to send a special invitation to you, Deborah, to audit one of my classes. And that's this
Thank
coming Saturday. So I'll send the invitation to you. And in addition to that, everyone can join me on next Thursday. I am doing a master class, and it is a free master class. It's called Free Coach with Confidence Master Class. And it is going to be next Thursday
Okay.
at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Okay. And
You
it's
can
how to
send me
turn
that
your,
information.
pardon me?
Can you send me that information so I can post it?
I will. I
It's my
will, because
email community.
I will definitely. Thank you. It's how to turn your vision, skills, and brilliance into a successful online coaching business. And so that is free. That is next Thursday. So I will definitely send you that information.
I will post it. And we're actually out of time, but I want to know if there's any closing thoughts that you would have for the streamers.
Hmm. We all have, if everyone take a look at your hands, take a look at your hands. Don't look at me, look at your hands. Everyone has lines in their hands. And if we had time, I would say, what do those lines represent? I'll just go ahead and tell you. Your grandmother didn't have those lines. Your grandfather didn't have those lines. Your ancestors did not have those lines. You are the only one who has those lines. And how I compare these lines, I compare that to you, who you are, the individual that you are, the purpose in your life. You are the only one who can fulfill that purpose. Someone is waiting on you, and that someone will never be able to be blessed if you don't move as God is calling you to move into your purpose, to embrace who God has created you to be. You are significant, you have a purpose, and it's time to make an impact.
Wow. That is beautiful. My goodness. Thank you so much, Pamela.
You
What
are
an
welcome.
awesome guest. And, when I think about the advice that you're providing, I'm sure there's some entrepreneurs out there that are saying, wow. And to take your course, all they have to do, let me just put the ticker under here so they can follow along. And it is www.powerhouseinmotion.com. Thanks again, Pamela.
You
Please
are
come back.
welcome.
Again, if you have other products, I would love to have you. And we won't have a mix up with time when you come back.
Thank you so much for the time, for inviting me today. Thank you.
Absolutely. And thanks, streamers, for checking us out. This is Success Talk with Deborah Shariff. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you.